Bonjour, bonsoir. How are you, dear friends? We are building the most inspiring and phenomenal communities of wine lovers. As we all know, wine is the catalyst of the greatest discussion. We'll be talking wine, but of course food, and everything that touches all our emotion and senses. Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. From Wapo Hill tonight, Napa Valley, this is a happy hour. We're going to travel very far on the other side of the world in the beautiful town of Hong Kong. We're going to meet one of the most leading Korean Chinese lady of wine, lady of food, who's done virtually everything in that space. She's one of the most charming, beautiful, an incredible mother of 3 very successful ladies. She's been living her life over the last 25 years with wine and food as a wine writer. She's a great author of many books. We'll talk about 2 tonight. She is a wine critic. She's a wine journalist. She is, of course, a TV personality. You'll understand why. She's extremely articulate. And she's one of the most knowledgeable lady in the world of wine. She was one of the first lady ever in Asia to be granted the famous title Master of Wine, that she fully deserves. She's the co-chair of Decanter as well in Asia, and is consulting for a great airline named Singapore Airlines. And she does so much that the list is much longer, but I had to summarize it for all of you to meet a Master of Wine friend, Jeannie Cho Lee. Jeannie, bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Jean-Charles.
Et bonjour pour toi, parce que c'est le matin.
Thank you for that amazing introduction.
Well, there's so much more to say, because as people will obviously discover you, if they don't already know you, there's so much more. But I had to make it to 1 minute. I'm opening.
Whoa. Okay. Well, here I go.
We're watching you now.
Here. Oh, no. Okay.
We know you've opened thousands of those. You like to savor, typically. I know that.
I know, but that would really mean taking a lot of risks on television.
Ooh, that very soft noise. Dear friends.
Are we drinking the same thing?
You've done it so well. We have the same wine, JCB No. 8. And dear friends, you know why? Because Jeannie is a lover of Burgundy as well. And we'll talk about her book shortly. But first, we're going to have a toast. Jeannie has the kindness to be in her beautiful Hong Kong apartment. And during this wonderful time, Jeannie, it's so good to see you and to celebrate friendship together today and to sharing your life story, which is amazing. Santé!
Oh, thank you for the opportunity and for a wonderful introduction.
Thank you. So Jeannie, as we obviously enjoy the bubbles together, and thank you for looking at me right in the eyes. It's a good sign for the future. We want to ask you the first question. You were awarded one of the first Master of Wine, obviously, of all Asia. It's a very big deal. Why the Master of Wine, and how did you think of it and succeeded so fast?
Oh, I don't know if I succeeded that fast. It was a pretty long journey. From childhood, I was really into food. I was into flavors. I really developed a passion for wine when I was in university. I spent a year at Oxford and traveled around Europe and became fascinated. And actually, I would say at that time, I was really intimidated more than anything, because the world of wine had this amazing language. It had this world of flavors and history and culture that was just all rolled up into a glass of wine and a bottle gave you detail. So I was fascinated for a long time, but I thought it wasn't a practical profession in the sense that if I wanted to live in Asia, there weren't that many opportunities for jobs except to be a sommelier, potentially, or to be in the wine trade, you know, selling and trading wine. And those were two areas I really wasn't too interested in. So the Master of Wine came about when I started writing about wine as a journalist. And I wrote about food as well. I wrote about cigars. I wrote about lots of lifestyle stories for the Far Eastern Economic Review for many, many years. When I started freelancing for Wine Spectator and then became the Asian editor for Decanter, I realized that that I could still pursue my passion in wine and not have to be a sommelier or you know, in the trade. So there was I guess a road that sort of, you know, unfolded itself in front of me, and it seemed as though the Master of Wine was really the I would say the gateway or the door that would give me more opportunities.
But it's amazing, Jeannie, because you've gone the very high road in your studies. You've studied in the best university in the world. And now you love wine, you love food, and you just don't go for your WSET or any of those. You go for the top of the top. So what makes you who you are today and drives you to always reach for the best of the best?
You know, I did go to the WSET first. So I did do my diploma and then I did my Master of Wine. So it was a kind of logical step. But for me, the drive to really be, I suppose, the best that I could be, it was really because of my parents. They arrived as immigrants to New York, and I saw them working really hard, and they had a hard life. It was tough. And I, you know, during my younger teenage years, I was out in Long Island, and I think I was one of only two Asians in the whole middle school that I went to there. And you know, the idea that you had to prove yourself, that you had to work harder than everyone else, I think it's been ingrained. So, you know, trying to do the best you can was just something I saw in my parents, I saw in their friends, you know, the whole first generation immigrant in the United States story. I think mentally it stays with you and it never really leaves you.
Well, that's very impressive because you succeeded to, of course, instill that as well into your beautiful daughter's mind, because they all in fabulous American universities and being very successful themselves. So how do you actually do that as a mother who does so much professionally and who succeeds into balancing a personal life with your children?
You can ask almost all the modern women now, you know, your wife, Gina included, how you balance. It's a continual seesaw. You never feel like you get it right. You feel like, oh no, I'm not spending enough time with my family, or oh no, I'm neglecting my work. So I don't think you ever feel comfortable, but at the same time, there are two things that I try to think about when I make a decision. One is, you know, given how much time I do devote to wine and to, you know, things I love, would I encourage my daughter in my position to do the same? You know, what kind of advice would I give my daughter if she were in my position? And so if I can making the choice that I would give to my daughter, then I feel like that probably is the wisest decision I can make at the moment. And the other thing I think about is that, you know, what better way to teach your children anything than by just doing by example.
That's right.
by leading by example, showing them how I want them to live their lives.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And Jeannie, if you don't mind, let's go on the topic that we just touched on, which is so current today. I'm always so impressed. And as you know, we have a lot of friends in common and a lot of fabulous Asian friends. You talked about your parents, first immigrant working hard. When you look at the United States as an example, and you look at France, the two countries I luckily happen to know most, probably living in both, Asian are very successful. They have a sense of discipline, a sense of duty, a sense of wanting to learn, a sense of wanting to surpass themselves, and to intellectually and monetarily arrive. How do you explain this at large?
Well, I'm sure it has a lot to do with family values, and at the same time, family pressure. I'm not going to say it's easy being, you know, a child of a very, I guess, driven parents who they themselves wanted to succeed, but equally or even more, they want their next generation and their children to succeed. So when you feel that, you know, I've seen people who've gone the other way, reacted the opposite way, by rebelling, by not listening, by you know, running away or not being able to withstand the pressure. But if you can take the pressure and the stress of parents who constantly tell you you're not good enough, you've got to do harder. Oh, you got 4 A's, but what happened? Why did you get that B? You know, being that harsh, it depends on the individual. So I'm not sure it's the best parenting style or the best values, but I do think that a lot of it has to do with the values you grow up with, and, you know, and the pressure you feel.
Mm-hmm. That's very impressive. And I've chose the wine we're having, the bubbles, because they really represent you, I think. Besides the style that you should describe to us in 3 words, there's 3 words written on the back label of number 8. And I wanted to choose number 8, which is that beautiful metal label, gold, because it's the yin and yang, which I think you exemplify so well. On the back, the 3 words is balance.
Yep.
Because I've always seen you, whatever you did, it could be a speech in front of 1,000 people or an intimate dinner, you're very balanced. You're very sophisticated. And as well, there's one last word, you could be as well rebellious.
You think so? Okay. That's the word I wanted to ask you about. So why is a sparkling rebellious in your mind?
Rebellious because we push the boundaries in Burgundy on this one to really balance 50% Chardonnay, mainly from the Côte de Beaune, and 50% Pinot Noir, predominantly from the Côte de Nuit. It's rebellious because the wine you have in your glass is mainly Premier Cru, of course, and very well-known village, but we're not allowed to say it on the label because the law is only Cremant de Bourgogne. So it's rebellious in a way that we've done the non-obvious. We pushed it to make it so good, we believe. And at the same time, we're rebellious because nobody would dare blending Premier Cru and making sparkling wine in Burgundy.
Okay, I'll share with you what was rebellious that I did, which may not be that obvious. So when I decided to do my Master of Wine, you know, I already had graduated. I had a master's degree from Harvard. I was studying international relations and public policy. So wine was not my field at all. And when I told my parents, and at that time I was already in Hong Kong, I was already married, but you know, I still cared a lot about what my parents thought. So when I told them I was doing a Master of Wine, they thought I was crazy.
They thought another master's degree.
You already have a master's degree that you don't use, right? Yeah. Well, you have a master's degree you don't use. You want another one, or what are you collecting master's degrees? Well, you know, what are you going to do with this? He said, and my father, who's very traditional, he says to me, you're not going to be serving wines potentially, are you? You know, especially to strangers and to men. And I said, no, I'm not interested in being a sommelier or in the service industry. He said, well, good, because that's what geishas and prostitutes do. You know, this is not a daughter from his side of the family would even consider. And I said, okay, no, I wasn't thinking that anyway. But wine itself, you know, in the minds of a lot of Asian traditional alcohol. And if you are dealing in alcohol, it is not considered a kind of a noble or, you know, profession that you would aspire towards. And my father said, so what did we do wrong? Where did we go wrong? What happened to you? And it was really later when they, so the Korean national broadcasting company, KBS, did a documentary on me. I think about a year or two after I became a Master of Wine, and it was shown all over the country. And so he saw it, you know, his friends saw it, our relatives saw it, and they finally realized what was a Master of Wine, because they just had no idea. And finally he said, oh, I get it. You chose a profession that you really enjoy and that you can have fun with. And it wasn't until a few years after I became a Master of Wine that my parents realized that I wasn't so rebellious. Maybe I was definitely pushing the envelope, as you are doing with this sparkling, but I wasn't being completely rebellious.
Well, this is a beautiful story, and I love as well your sense of respect for your parents. Even though you had graduated, you were already married. It's amazing that,
yeah,
you know, within the Asian tradition, which is very similar.
I still cared what they thought.
Exactly. And it's very European in many ways as well, that closeness we have and sense of discussion, conversation, respect, and love for one another and acknowledgement of what we do. I think it's important. Talking about this, I want to show you a picture of a very gorgeous woman that I'm looking at too. Look at this beautiful lady here.
Oh.
So I want all our friends to see Jeannie Cho Lee. I've had the pleasure to dance with her when she was wearing a dress similar to that. So I can already feel and remember the rhythm. So Jeannie Cho Lee.
Okay, Jean-Charles, can I interrupt you with a funny story?
Yes, of course.
So, okay. So when we were doing the cover of that book, I said, I'm too embarrassed. I don't want to be on the cover. My editor, my publisher, everyone vetoed and said, no, you have to be on the cover. It's you that has to be identified with the Asian palette. So anyway, they convinced me. I did the photo, and then when the book came out, my daughters saw it. They looked at it and they said, oh, Mom, is that you? I said, yeah, that's me. They're like, wow, that looks like you about 10 years ago.
I think it looks like you today very much. You never change. And the beauty is it keeps getting even better and better. I think you look much better even today than on this cover, although the cover is very competitive.
Oh.
So this book, Jeannie, is extraordinaire because for all of us who adore Asian food, not only the people from the East, but from the West, we want to place wine into it. And you were, I really believe, one of the first one ever to really bring that savoring Asian cuisine and wine together. So would you maybe summarize the book for all our friends who are obviously very interested in Asian palate and very interested into having their eyes open to amazing Asian food?
Well, when I was studying wine, I realized that the whole literature of Asian cuisine and wine was so limited. And this is really 2005, 2006, and 2007, like almost 20 years ago. And at that time, there was so little that every book I picked up that of some of my favorite writers, whenever there was a remark about how do you pair, for example, Chinese cuisine, the answer was always Gewürztraminer. How do you pair spicy cuisine like Sichuan or Yunnan? And it was again Gewürztraminer, and I was so tired of reading that, and also of having recommendations that I thought were really not that respectful or understanding of Asian cuisine, that I decided when I passed the Master of Wine exam, which was 2007, I needed a little break from wine. I love wine, but I was so sort of over my head and drowning in wine detail and information that I just wanted a little food break, because food was my other love.
Yes.
And so I decided to spend a year and a half in 10 different cities in Asia, spending about 4 to 8 weeks in each city, really in the kitchens of some of the top restaurants and top hotels in the cities, seeing what it is that chefs use when they're salting their food. So one theme that emerged from that book was that Asian chefs use soy sauce or fermented sauces to salt their food. They don't use salt. So it was when you use vinegar, for example, it's not your red wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar or your normal white vinegar. It is usually rice vinegar, which is usually softer and less. So I mean, there were themes that emerged, and I decided that that it was important enough to look at the terroir, or the essence of each city's particular combination of ingredients, to see what wines would really pair well with it in a way that was a little bit, I suppose more structured in approach, because I broke down each cuisine into how spicy it was, how salty, how in the bitterness, the tolerance for fat and texture, and it was really different in each of the cuisines. And I could see that when you have a table, and it's mostly communal in terms of how we eat food, what are the combination of ingredients that come forth, how intense, how flavorful, is that communal experience. And with that, you're given a kind of direction in terms of what types of wines really might work well. So this this was the inspiration, and it was really satisfying to work on it for 2 years and have it published in 2009.
And we will recommend everybody to get it, because I really think not only in the East, because a lot of people ask questions about how do I pair wine with the food I love, but in the West, we love Asian food. And I think your travel you've done in all the major cities of China and Asia is so phenomenal, because it really gives us a true understanding of the taste, the flavor profile, as you said, with soy sauce, and everything and how to do it, which is very difficult. So congratulations. So maybe, what do we think of Burgundy with Asian food? Because now I want us to go with the first red wine we have to taste tonight together, the wonderful Ursuline wine. So we chose this wine,
Yes.
Jeannie, because you write a lot about the Grand Cru and the Premier Cru. But there's another wine very important, as you know, in Burgundy, which is the Village and the regional. So this one is a regional. So this is just a Pinot Noir, which is an assemblage of Burgundy. And why this one? Because you're such a leading woman of the wine world. The ladies in 1640 who built our winery in Burgundy, the Boisset winery, that you've seen, were Ursuline order, and they made a great wine at the time, as you know, which was this assemblage of different villages that they would bring. And the Mother Superior would actually approve the wine, and it would be the wine she would serve to the sisters. So we were incorrigible. We put it in a screw cap because we believe it's as well a very good way to preserve wine.
Absolutely. Well, cheers.
Cheers. And that's the glass you designed, right?
Yes. You're so observant.
So, Jeannie, besides telling us about the wine, why don't you tell us about the process of designing as well your own glass? Because we both have a glass we respectfully designed, you know. So tell us about yours.
Oh, so this was a project that came to me by a friend who makes Chinaware and porcelain for the top chefs in Asia, and the company is called Inhesion. So Eric, who's a very good friend, he's the CEO, and said to me, "Jeannie, don't you want to design your own glasses?" I said, "Yes, I do. It would be a fun project. It would unleash another creative side of me." And you know all about that because you are Mr. Creative, the ultimate in creativity in the amongst all the people I know in the wine world, Jean-Charles.
Thank you.
So this was just a tiny passion. And they made it super easy and said, you tell me what shape, what design you want, and we will find the manufacturer. So it actually took almost 3 years. And Inhesion is the official distributor of Spiegelau for Far East Asia. So they had a lot of contacts. They went to Austria, they went to different parts of Central and Eastern Europe. And at the end, they ended up going with an Italian artisan who blows it from one piece each of these glasses, you know, by mouth, and so they're really artisanal. And I wanted this twist here because you mentioned the yin and the yang.
Yes, of course.
So the twist here are actually two pieces that are intertwined, and if you look straight down into each of the glasses, you actually see a yin and yang symbol.
I love it.
Right.
And I remember that, Jeannie, because I got 4 glasses. You probably remember that I attended your incredible seminar at Vinexpo Hong Kong in June. I believe it was 6 or 8 years ago when you released those glasses. And I was so thrilled because I was already imagining and in touch with Baccarat for our glass. And it was fascinating to see not only how you explain it, but how you brought the concept of energy to the wine glass with the yin and the yang and the 2 intertwined circles in the glass. You're obviously a big believer of energy, right?
Yes, and I know you are. You should talk a little bit about your glasses because they're beautiful and I've used them. Thank you.
Well, you know, very similar to you.
Weight, shape?
Yes, so the shape, we took a very large galbe, as we call it, or paraison in French, 9.5 centimeters, so very wide, with a big opening with the lip, so it's very easy to drink. And the idea for us was to create with Baccarat what we call the Passion Collection. So the one and only glass you need for white, rosé, or red. I was, of course, using as well, you know, the champagne glass or the Cremant glass, all made out of crystal.
Yes. Ooh.
And you know, of course, Baccarat has an enormous tradition. Since 1764, you know, Louis XV as a king pushed Baccarat to become the leader of Cristal. And the idea here was all about energy as well. You create a vortex in clockwise and you create like the yang, the chaos, counterclockwise. So it really facilitates the aromatic expression. And on the lip, the drinking here and goes into what you and I share is the umami in your tongue. So the idea of the length to the width and to the lip is to always end up in the middle of your tongue. So it creates a perfect irrigation horizontally and vertically. So scientifically, we work a lot with the Baccarat lab, the mouth shape, the tongue shape, the length, the width, and the retroolfaction of how the wine actually goes in and how it keeps giving you aroma through the back end. So it was a big process, as you have. You know, it took you 3 years, which is, you know, obviously a very long period of time to design the perfect glass. But, you know, when we love wine, we love, of course, the glass too. But Jeannie, so Burgundy, as you're going to tell us about this wine, dear friends, Jeannie came out with one of the most difficult books to write, literally 9 months ago. One of the best book ever on Burgundy, published by Ursulines. And I want to show you this book because, of course, Jeannie very kindly brought it to us as a gift, and we're delighted to promote it. This is the 100 Burgundy wine in order to build the dream wine cellar. So, Jeannie, thank you for sure of integrating us in the book. We're very honored by that. So tell us about this dream of Burgundy and why Burgundy as one of your first, besides food, big book on wine.
Well, first, there's so many reasons about why Burgundy, but the most obvious and I would say probably the most glaring reason for anyone who knows me and who's you know, dined with me is that I love to eat, I would say, mostly Asian cuisine. My favorites are Japanese, Cantonese, Korean, of course. I love also Singaporean, Malaysian, Vietnamese, Thai. I mean, the list goes on. But so
For sure.
in my daily life, I'm usually eating some kind of Asian cuisine. It's just part of who I am and, you know, what I love. And the wines that really, as a range, an entire range from the regional, from the Bourgogne all the way to the Grand Crus, that really does the best with most Asian cuisines is Burgundy. And it's really because my frequency of exposure and the fact that I drink it most often, that's the most obvious reason. And the second reason is I think it's a bit of a challenge. As you said, it's a really difficult region to write about because there is so much that can be said. You know, we both know, for example, Alan Meadows very well, and he spent a long time just talking about Von Romanet in a book.
Yes.
So you can go so deep into one appellation. You can almost spend your entire life discovering one appellation or maybe two. In Burgundy, that it isn't intimidating. And the less intimidating for me was really just to say, okay, there are amazing books on Burgundy already. I mentioned Ellen Meadows, but of course, you know, Jasper from
Yes.
who's written Inside in Jasper Morris and Inside Burgundy. There's Clive Coates. There, you know, Remington Norman. There are many, and I have their books, and I have a huge amount of respect for what they've done. So I didn't want to write another encyclopedia. I didn't want to write another long, you know, fact written book. I wanted to narrow it down, and to narrow it, I thought of one of my daughters who loves Burgundy. She, you know, she loves Burgundy so much. When we got our first dog, and she was only about 8 years old, she insisted on naming him Pinot Noir.
Oh,
So
that's very good.
we have.
Well, one of my dogs is named Musini as well, so you can understand.
Musini. Oh, that's even more specific. So yeah, and so I thought about her, and I was thinking, if I were putting together a dream cellar for her, and I had to limit myself to 100 wines, what would I put in her dream cellar? And so then the book became easy. It became manageable. It became focused. There was a direction. There was a reason why I was putting these wines into the book. It was a lot of them are personal experiences I've had with the wine.
Yes.
And some of them are because I wanted her to discover them, or they are benchmark wines. And so, you know, the book almost started to write itself when I knew what the purpose was.
And Jeannie, you write with a very unique style. I'd like you to explain it to all of us. You write with a lot of beauty. As Madame, you know, Leroy mentioned in the preface of your book, you choose word of beauty. And define that style for everyone, because what I admire is someone who is irreverent enough not to follow the typical words of wine description. And I really believe you're obviously one of those.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that. It's a huge compliment coming from you, Jean-Charles. But I feel as though part of my training as a journalist made me think that I shouldn't be using words that go over people's heads, that I should be speaking direct to someone who's just a wine lover who loves Burgundy.
Yes.
And in the back of my mind too, I always thought of what I wanted to convey to my daughters, to, you know, what message would I want them to feel when they read an entry, for example, or it's not just about learning something, because I think right now in this day and age, you can fact everything is on Google and Wikipedia.
Yes.
Facts are what is interesting to passion. If I can move you with my words, then that's really meaningful. Because I don't want to give out numbers or give you a whole, you know, encyclopedic, you know, length of detail about a particular wine, because I think you can get that anywhere easily. You just need to look it up. But what can I leave in terms of stories of people, and what are the words that I can use to move you, to make you feel like, oh, I really want to try this wine. Oh, maybe I tried it once, but it was not the, you know, right vintage. Maybe, or I need to wait for this wine to open up a little more. What was it that moved me? And it had to be emotional. It couldn't be just intellectual or factual.
And I love it. So talking about emotion, give us a few words, a taste of your style as you describe maybe this Burgundy, because again, we could have chosen a Clos Vougeot, which is one of my favorite village, or Musigny, or Bonne. We've had many of those together, but I thought it was interesting to really bring together to the attention of a lot of people a regional wine with a screw cap, obviously of a great style, but that is not necessarily your $300-400 bottle of wine, but on the opposite, entry level brings people to Burgundy.
So what's really, I think what's really unique about this wine is that, first of all, just on the label itself, I love the simplicity and the fact that you have written for some consumers that it is Pinot Noir.
Thank you.
Right. There's only three main things on this label when you look at it. First, you say Bourgogne, so you know you're in Burgundy. And then you have Pinot Noir, which makes it clear for a lot of people who may not be familiar with Burgundy. And then you have Les Ursulines, which you just described was the order, this historic, you know, it gives you history as well as just this sense of, you know, expectation on variety, and you have an idea of the region. So already you there's a frame in your mind of where you're going.
Thank you.
And when you see that for young Pinot Noir, the first impression that you get is this is not just Pinot Noir. This goes way beyond Pinot Noir, because when you're thinking, especially for a lot of maybe people who live in California and are used to more California Pinot Noir, you have a fruit spectrum in your mind.
That's right.
Maybe it starts out with raspberry and cherries, and right. And here, the fruit is in the background. What you get more of is really this, I call it a dance between the berries that you, at the same time, this kind of minerality, this sense of place, that you know, I know we're being accused of saying minerality too often, because what does it really mean? Well, it means that the fruit is not at the forefront. It means that there is an element of maybe something stony, something savory, something floral that really goes beyond fruit. It has a structure that gives it a kind of a backbone, a spine, even though the wine is very slim. This is not a big wine. So if I could, as I did for the Burgundy book, to make it easier for some people, I will do what you did with your sparkling as well. The number 8, you gave it 3 words. So yes. Let me give 3 words.
Thank you, please.
To this wine, it's restrained elegance and harmony.
Ooh.
It's restrained
elegance and harmony. Beautifully said.
And harmony.
Thank you so much. So maybe, Jeannie, on that note, what to you makes a great wine, or one of the greatest wine ever? What are the attributes of that large? Just to guide all our friends with us tonight.
Yes. I've been really lucky in Hong Kong to have some amazing wines. And so I always think and reflect what it is that makes a great wine, and why it is that I don't give out that many 100 points, which and people accuse me of being so stingy. with my ratings, because, you know, I've been fortunate to have benchmarks that are so high that I think, you know, you end up judging everything that you try against the top benchmarks. So when I think about what is really a great wine, it goes beyond words. It's a wine that you struggle to describe, because it's beyond what you can describe. That's when I know it's a great wine, when I struggle to find any words. And two is when I realize that this wine is making me so emotional, I almost want to cry.
Oh,
It's this emotional feeling that the wine evokes. It's almost like it's coming out of your soul. And the third thing is that you feel like you're in the presence of something beyond, you know, what could be made by human beings. You feel like you're in the presence of greatness, of beauty, of, you know, something so indescribable that it's almost spiritual, you know. And I don't have those experiences all that often. And when I do, you know, that's my 100 points. That's when I feel like I have this, you know, incredible relation, and something beautiful is just really moving my spirit and my soul. And it's in that way, it's, I would say it is kind of personal, because, you know, what moves me makes.
well, so beautifully said. You are moving us, of course. And your soul and your beautiful words are moving us. So on that note, Jeannie, what inspires you as such a talented woman who's done so much, from your studies to your successful career to your incredible family? At this stage of your life, what drives you, inspires you the most?
I think what inspires me is, to the best of my ability, to you know, to be the best that I can be, and to be grateful. So I, you know, when someone asks, I'm I'm finishing my PhD right now, and someone asked me, why are you doing that? And I said, what drives you to do that? I said, you know, because I can, because I feel grateful that I have all this opportunity and I can do anything I want to do, especially in, you know, the field that I love. That why wouldn't you do it? It's almost like, why wouldn't you do it? So what drives
Your
me
father
isn't
would say,
this.
it's not at least another master's degree, so he would be happy to know that it's a PhD now.
He's very happy about that. He's very happy.
Well, congratulations.
No, I think that, you know, and when people ask me, why are you doing the Master of Wine? And at that time, I had really no thoughts of being in the wine industry 100%. I thought I would, you know, stay in journalism and publishing. I wasn't really sure. I just knew that I should do it because I could. I was grateful for, you know, having the ability to be able to remember wines, to love it, to, you know, to be passionate about it. So it wasn't this particular goal, but what drives me is that we have one life, and it's actually not that long. And so we should, you know, make use of every, yeah, I know, we should really just be grateful and make use of what we've been given, so that you can do the most with it, and then just let it take you where it takes you.
This is so well said and so inspirational. Not only what inspires you is very exciting for all of us, but your message is, in addition, Jeannie, very inspirational for all of us. And you're exactly right. I think we need to continue to follow what is inside of us, and to always try to go beyond and do it, because you're the prime example of And that's the message I want to send to everybody. We've been friends for a long time. Not only you say you will do it, but you are doing it. And when you actually say you're thinking of doing it, you've already started. And that's what I love about it.
And you know, the question in life, Jean-Charles, should be, why not? You know,
That's
why
right.
not just do it? Why not? You know,
It's
what's
such
keeping you
great,
back?
it's such a great advice for everyone. And on that note, because we only have a last one, of course.
Oh no, oh no.
And I had to use a decanter that you know well, that we designed with Baccarat as well, part of the Passion Collection. I decanted this wine because this was my dream, as you have dreams, and hopefully you're going to share it with us. I have a few more questions, Jenny, for us, if you don't mind. If you have a few minutes to allow us to continue. The wine I wanted you to taste, of course, we've tasted it before together, was actually what really you represent, which is the best of so many worlds. You're not just two worlds, because you really, Asia, America, and Europe. I'm sure you're other continents, but you're really the fabulous person that brings all of us together. And this wine, as you know, is called Number 3. This is the wine I did with my lovely wife, Gina, that you know so well, and dedicated to our ladies who are Franco-American. And the idea was to really create a wine, and I will never forget when we tasted it as well in Hong Kong together at your fabulous private club, and with your friends in that incredible restaurant. Because, dear friends, you got to know, if you get to know Jeannie, not only she does the best dinner parties, but she introduced you to some amazing people that I'm still in touch with, because you're such a phenomenal connector, Jeannie. So, on the wine we're going to try, this is JCB Number 3, which is the blend of Burgundy at almost equal percentage with Sonoma, the Russian River. As we taste the wine, and you'll describe it in a moment, I'd like us to hear about your passion. Because through your life, we could see that you execute with discipline and charisma each of your passions. It could be publishing, editing, creating a magazine, being on television, being a professor, now finishing and accomplishing your PhD. I mean, you are such an entrepreneur. And do you still have passions for more things?
I think it's a passion for life. Yes, actually, during the whole COVID lockdown, I decided to pursue a slightly off the wine track passion, which is really writing. So I've been working on a play, writing some fiction, really just really for fun. And one day I think I would like to see my play become produced and performed.
And I'm sure it will.
Well, I'm not sure I pursue it with the same kind of dedication as I do with wine and other pursuits, but it really is something that that moves me, and I do it purely for fun, for love. But there's so many things, and during the lockdown, I've had more time. I haven't been able to travel as much, so I've spent a lot more time cooking. So I've been making sort of different cuisines every night. Almost my family is the guinea pig, and some of my friends, of course. And I've also been playing a lot of golf. So and I never had time. I used to love golf before I had children, and then because it took up so much time, I stopped for a while. And now I'm playing 2 or 3 times a week. So it's you know, there's so many things in life to explore, to enjoy. In terms of wine, you know, probably about once a week we do different themed wine with friends. I'm sorry about the noise. Can you hear that?
Barely.
Okay. So I have one group where we do Burgundy themed evenings. I have another group that's, where we do we change the theme from different wines from around the world, but we meet regularly, and it's always a learning experience. It's fun.
Very exciting, very exciting. So, Jenny, is there maybe, I always say curiosity is one of the greatest signs of intelligence, and obviously you represent that. You're curious of so many unbelievable fields, and you could perform in so many various activities. What message would you like to share for others in terms of maybe something you want to say to people, not only women in the world, not just for wine, but as a message at large? Because you have such spirituality, wiseness, and of course, talent, that I'm sure people would love to hear about, your maybe recommendation, suggestion, or vision.
Wow. That's a deep question, Jean-Claude.
No one better than you can actually explain and articulate this well.
Well, I would have to say that the best thing is to be true to who you are, and to do that you have to know who you are, know what you want to express, know how you want to share whatever it is that you have, whether it's a skill, whether it's knowledge, whether it's your experience or wisdom or whatever it is, and to be able to give and share it, because if you don't, it's not like you can't take it with you when you die.
Right.
And whatever it is that you've been given as a gift in life, hopefully be true to who you are, and to share it with as many people as you can.
I love that message, because I'm so much as you are, and I know that because we are in many ways at least very similar, or I'd like to be more like you, but it's going to be very difficult, of course, because you're so ahead. But sharing is really one of the most exciting elements of life, when we can, as you said, you shared this amazing book, and you had your daughter in mind, and so many friends to discover Burgundy and the wonderful cellar. I'm the same. When I crafted this wine, it was to share it as well with all of us, to make a statement, to allow two words together instead of speaking about differences, what brings them together. And what makes a greater wine, when the sum is greater than the parts. I have twin girls, and I really believe it's not one or the other, but when you have both of them in the same room, it's 120%, not just 100%.
Yes. And that's what we share too. I have twin girls as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm dying to see them, and I want to make sure we save a few bottles for them of this wine. So I know they're spending a lot of time in the US right now. So as soon as you allow them to come to visit us in Napa Valley and stay with us, we can really have the number 3, the twin wines, for them. Right.
Thank you.
So, Jeannie, I want to ask you one more question. That great message, you kind of said it, what is next? You're obviously working now on your PhD or finalizing it. You're working on a play. Is there something else that is a dream of yours or a next plan that you have that you haven't shared yet that we should know about? Because tonight is an exclusive moment to you. So maybe one more thing you want to share.
What else would I like to share? Actually, my fantasy would be to fantasy.
I'm getting excited. Let me get another sip here. When you're talking about fantasy, I'm going to talk to Salvatore Dali, Lobster. What's your fantasy? Don't ask me to share mine because it's too wild.
Okay, it's not appropriate for the audience.
No, share it. I love it.
If I could be born with another talent, it would really be it would be singing. Yes. You know, the male version would be of course Pavarotti.
Classical.
The female version would be Maria Callas. Yes. If I could, that's an ultimate fantasy that I know would never come true because I don't have the talent. I don't. You can dream about it.
Well, do you want to sing for us now? Is it something you want to share now? A part of a great song?
Oh, no. In another life. When I come back in my next life. That is
this is very exciting because we believe in reincarnation. So we believe in multiple lives, right? So Jeannie, we want to thank you so much for giving us your precious time to share your passions, to share your inspiration, to share your talents, to share really the incredible lady that you are. You've been such a force in so many people's life. And again, I'll repeat, it's such an inspiration, not only for many ladies, but a lot of men and a lot of people at large. So I cannot wait for all of us to see each other again around the table, for us to be able to come and see you in Hong Kong, of course, Burgundy, California. And I really want to thank you for accepting to being with us and for sharing so much. Your books, your passion, your style, your charisma. And I can tell you tonight, you've inspired so many. And I really want to raise my glass to your husband, to you, to your wonderful family, to your ladies, your twins too, from our twins to yours. And
your ladies.
Thank you. And I commend you for all what you're doing for all of us, emotionally, spiritually, and more. So all my love, all our love.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jeannie, and to friendship.
To friendship.